Okay, well, we can go ahead and get started. We have a guest presenter joining us today, so I want to be respectful of his time. But first of all, let me thank you all for joining us again and welcome you all to our community call. We will a little bit of news about this space. We will not be holding the call in 2 weeks. We'll be taking that Wednesday off as we'll be preparing for the Festival of Nations, Tower Grove Park, that weekend. We encourage you all to join us, and we'll talk a little bit more about the festival and our preparation and what's going to be happening a little bit later. But I just want to kind of start us off by saying, we've seen a lot of movement, of course, the last week in terms of news and updates, and so this one is chocked full of information that we're hoping that you all can receive, and of course ask any questions that you have. We really encourage that because your understanding of what we're presenting is vital for the information to be disseminated into our community. And so we want to make this as interactive as possible. So I really hope that you all are able to unmute or put your questions in the chat when you have them, and be happy to answer those as they come in. So let's go ahead and jump right into the agenda. Today we'll be talking a little bit more, and again, our guest speaker will be providing us more information about Ukrainian humanitarian parole and the updates there before we jump right into our regular program updates and reflect a little on the Afghan evacuation and Operations Allies Welcome, as we're here at the 1-year anniversary of the fall of Kabul and really the beginning of that project. Then, as I mentioned, we'll talk a little bit more about our Festival of Nations before reviewing some of our community partnership updates. So without further ado, let's jump right into the agenda. And with us today to tell us a little bit more about sort of late-breaking news as it pertains to Ukrainian humanitarian parole and services available for Ukrainians under this project is Paul Costigan, our state refugee coordinator. So without further ado, Paul, take it away.
All right, thank you, Blake. Just a brief update on what's going on as far as Ukrainians coming into our communities across Missouri and into St. Louis. They have been coming for a few months now, and they will continue to come for the next few months, as the federal government has put a cap on for 100,000 Ukrainians to come into the United States. That may end up being adjusted if there is more need for additional Ukrainians coming in, but the federal government, the U.S. Congress has allocated $115 million to states to distribute among the refugee agencies in their states to provide services to incoming Ukrainians. Some of the services include employment assistance, case management, skills training, English as a second language, applying for employment authorization documents and other applications as needed. Missouri's allocation for that 115 million is 863,000, just over 863,000, which will be distributed among the agencies across the state who are indeed serving the Ukrainian population. The funding is, as I said, is meant to go to those services that I just listed above. However, the agencies could also use some of this funding to provide housing and food assistance in emergency situations. Most of the Ukrainians who are coming into the state are applying for refugee cash assistance, which is a program that my office operates, or they're applying for other state benefits such as TANF, Medicaid, SNAP, which is food stamps, and other forms of assistance. This program is a little bit different than the standard refugee resettlement in the fact that it's being operated by the Department of Homeland Security, which does not operate the federal refugee program. so they are running this private sponsorship of Ukrainians of Uniting for Ukraine. You can find a lot more information on the Department of Homeland Security website. If you Google that and do DHS and Ukraine, you'll go right to their website. Has lots of information on sponsorships and things like that. The Uniting for Ukraine sponsorship applications, for those people who are looking to sponsor Ukrainians, which is still available, or looking for sponsorship from overseas, they can go to welcome.us. The website is right there on your screen. They will match people who are looking to sponsor with people who are looking for sponsorship. Sponsors can also identify family members who are Ukrainian in Poland and other neighboring countries to Ukraine or in Ukraine to do those applications as well. The application process is very short, and the lead time to being approved for those applications is also very short. So the U.S. government is putting a lot of effort into ensuring that those sponsorships happen very quickly. So far, there's been just under 104,000 applications. That an application is for an individual. More than 100,000 people have been applied for this program, the sponsorship program. And so far, upwards of over 70,000 have been approved for travel, and almost 35,000 have actually have traveled to the United States to begin their really incredible journey, fleeing a war zone, fleeing the war zones that are in Ukraine, and finding safety and security in the United States. Of that number, that large number of people who have applied, 104,000, almost 1,000 have been applied for within the state of Missouri. In the St. Louis region, those applications are about 365. Doesn't mean that 365 people have arrived in St. Louis already, but means that those applications have been submitted, and we would guess that there were going to be more than 1,200 or so people who will eventually make their way to Missouri to join family members or to join sponsors in the state. Now, one thing that's crucial is that sponsors are financially responsible for the people that they do sponsor. So although that some of the ORR funding that we're going to be distributing to agencies across the state are available for food and housing, sponsors make a commitment in their applications that they are going to provide that to the folks that they sponsor. So there's on the welcome.us website, there's a lot of information on what the expectations are for sponsors. The local agencies in the state are there to supplement the services that the sponsors are able to offer, and ensure that they get into employment if that's what they're looking for, get into ESL classes if that's what they're looking for, a wide variety of services. So so this is really a unique program in that it really couples the sponsorship model with the great work that local agencies such as International Institute in St. Louis and IASMO in Springfield do on behalf of refugees. So I'd be happy to take a question or two if there's any in the chat.
Paul, maybe you could tell us are they accepting applications up to a certain date deadline or a certain number of applications submitted?
No,
How long will people have to be able to submit these applications?
there's still time to submit applications. There is no deadline on the applications that are going to be submitted. There is a cap on the number of Ukrainians that are going to be allowed into the United States, which is that 100,000. But as you see, there's only 35,000 or so that have entered into the United States. So USCIS is going to be accepting applications for Uniting for Ukraine up until the point where they hit that max of folks that have entered into the United States.
Another question I have, and I'm not sure you're in a position to answer this, but with 103,000 applications filed and 71,000 approved to date, is that more representative of the pace of that approval, or is that more representative of the screening process? So should we expect to see a sort of 70% approval rate continuing, or is that about addressing the backlog?
So that's the backlog. The approval rate is extremely high. So it's not exactly 71% have been approved, but that there are ongoing approvals for applications, and still expect those approvals for applications to be very high, and that approval to enter the United States will continue to be done very expeditiously to move people out of harm's way and into local communities here in the United States.
Well, thank you for that. Any other questions for Paul while we have him? Well, hearing none, I'll go ahead and say thank you, Paul, for your time. We really appreciate it. We'll be continuing to provide this group updates and would welcome you back anytime. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we can move ahead with our agenda, and again, back to kind of where we usually start these things, our program updates. What we've seen over the last couple of weeks is a really low period when it comes to resettlement. Over the last 2 weeks, fundamentally, we've only had 2 single cases that have arrived since the 3rd of August. And as we've kind of been talking, the last several meetings, is that at the end of the federal fiscal year, we always see a lot of cases sort of jam-packed into the last few weeks of the year, and we're now beginning to see this scheduled. And 2 weeks ago, when we made this presentation, we actually had 14 individuals scheduled to arrive between the 23rd of August and the beginning of September. But now that number has jumped to 21, and it's 9 cases that we're expected to see arriving in that last week of this month. And then when we look ahead to the first 2 weeks of September, that number has grown quite significantly, with 45 individuals and 13 cases expected to arrive. And in this set of arrivals that we're seeing, particularly in September, is a few very large cases. So 2 cases of 7, 2 cases of 6, and 1 case of 5. Those are going to necessitate, again, creative partnerships in terms of sourcing housing for these large cases. And so we asked our partners on the call today to continue to provide us with those leads for housing, especially housing for these larger cases, as we're seeing a lot of, again, to date over the last several months, we've seen many smaller cases, looking into those arrivals from the week of the 23rd through the 1st. That's more typical of what we've seen, right? Cases of 1 or 2 or maybe 3 that have been arriving very regularly. We've been able to, of course, move those folks directly from arrival into independent housing without the need for temporary housing. The need for temporary housing really arose last winter as a result of the large cases and the volume. And we're kind of seeing a mini version of that replicate itself over the course of the first 2 weeks in September, with the number of large cases in a short period of time where many arrivals are coming. So we could certainly use the help of our partners on the call today to identify housing ahead of the arrivals that are slated for the first 2 weeks of September. If you do have any leads, any any information would be helpful to us, and please feel free to send that to me, and I'll go ahead and ask that Armin, if you can put my email in the chat just to make sure that folks are able to reach out. With our program updates, I do want to also call attention to the fact that as we're heading to the end of our federal fiscal year, we're also hearing about new programming such as the AUSAA, which is this new Ukrainian support program that Paul just mentioned to us. We are starting to hear more news about the continuation of benefits as well for our Afghan clients. And so the program that's offering them similar services as Paul just described that are now going to be available to Ukrainians, that is actually going to be extended now into the next federal fiscal year. And we're very thankful for that. That is a program that's going to allow us to serve Afghans who are parolees through the next federal fiscal year. And of course, we are still very much keeping an eye on the activity in Congress around the Afghan Adjustment Act. And I wanted to provide you with a very sort of hot off the presses update there. As of yesterday, the act has now been introduced in both houses of Congress. This has been introduced independent of other legislation. They are pushing this through on its own. And the bill does have a co-sponsor, and I'm proud to say that our own Senator Roy Blunt is one of the co-sponsors of the bill in the Senate. So we're very thankful to Senator Blunt for his support of this, truly making a bipartisan support a reality for this very important act. Again, this act is going to allow Afghans who are here temporarily on parole to be able to transition to permanent residency pending further vetting and another application process. But fundamentally, it means that they won't need to go through the very lengthy and very expensive time-wise asylum process, which already has its own backlog of now more than 1 million cases in backlog. And these Afghan cases are being pushed to the front of that line, creating a further backlog for more that are seeking asylum. So, we're thankful that this has been introduced, and very hopeful that the supporters of the Institute and those who support our clients and value their presence here in our region will engage in a bit of advocacy and letting their legislators know how they feel now that both of these acts have been introduced. We think it's very important for folks to voice their opinion on this critical issue that is very critical to not just the International Institute, but the clients that we're serving who are in limbo in the absence of such an act being passed. So with that, we'll go ahead and advance in our agenda to our topic conversation today around the Afghan evacuation 1 year later. It was just a year ago, hard to believe, that it was just a year ago, 2 days ago, that Kabul officially fell to the Taliban. And it was just prior to that, on the 14th, that Operations Allies Welcome really kicked off in earnest, really evacuating critical personnel. And over those last 2 weeks of August, more than 123,000 people were evacuated. And that's inclusive of American military personnel, American civilian personnel, in addition to Afghans who were evacuated due to their involvement with American military contractors. And so what we saw shortly after that, I mean, the images, I think, are something that many of us will never forget. Some heartbreaking images of the evacuation that still stick with us. And those are lived experiences for our clients. They lived through that and are here in safety, having gone through that. And so we know that this time can be very difficult for those who were a part of that evacuation, as it for many was an incredibly challenging period where they did lose loved ones. And so we at the agency are cognizant of these anniversaries as they crop up, having an impact on our clients' mental well-being. And so we are taking efforts to ensure that folks that are struggling at this time are getting access to the care that they need. In light of sort of these feelings kind of bubbling back up as we mark these anniversaries. We're very happy and thankful that between September 21st and September of 2021 and February of this year, more than 76,000 Afghans were actually brought here, vetted at our military bases here locally, and have been resettled nationwide. That was a very short timeline for a very large number. To sort of, again, put that in perspective, as we've tried to do throughout this process, 76,000 is a little bit less than the average number of all refugees that are resettled to the U.S. on an annual basis. And so, in addition to the refugees that were resettled this fiscal year, we also resettled basically the entire allotment of refugees that we would see in a much shorter period of time between September and February. So this was obviously not an operation without its hiccups, without its challenges, and without headaches, right, that were experienced not just on the military bases in terms of accommodating everybody in a fashion that is befitting guests in this country, but additionally, the challenges that resettlement agencies like ours face on the ground. And we would not have been able to work through many of these challenges if it wasn't for the partnerships of many of the folks on this call, community supporters, foundations, organizations, and individuals who really reached out asking how they can assist in what was quite obviously a very historic time. We know that the relationships that we've been able to forge, the partnerships that we've been able to establish are really going to serve us well, not just, of course, with this Afghan resettlement, which is ongoing, but and not just for Ukrainian resettlement, which is really yet to come. But these are relationships that we know are going to last because they were really centered on the duty of the work and the support of the folks that we are welcoming to our region. And the understanding that this is not done by the International Institute for St. Louis, this is done by all of us together. And so we're really thankful for the partnerships that we've been able to forge and grow during this period. In total, 609 Afghan parolees were settled into St. Louis, with another 81 Afghan refugees beginning really in August. We did see about 30 of those Afghan refugees resettle in August before the end of the federal fiscal year, with additional refugee arrivals taking place through the year. But to this point, we're near 700 Afghan arrivals over the period. But it's worth noting those really challenging times. Again, the 400 arrivals that we saw in October, November, and December were really, again, just an incredibly challenging time for those being resettled, for the staff here at the International Institute, and for many in our community struggling to support the needs, enormous needs of folks who are residing in temporary housing during that time. And so, again, just very thankful for what we've been able to pull together as a community to not just support folks and help them scrape by, but since then, what we've been able to establish in the form of our Afghan support programming here at the agency through community partnerships and generous donations. We've been able to establish coding classes for many of these Afghan refugees who have been arriving, in addition to efforting towards the opening of our Afghan Community Center, which is upcoming, and additionally building out the Afghan newsletter or newspaper, which we hope we'll be able to launch again before the end of the year. These are efforts that really, I think, a year ago, many of us really could not even fathom having come together. But necessity is the mother of invention, as they say, and I think we saw the need in this community. We're just thankful that we've been able to articulate the need to the point where many of our partners and community members feel moved to act. And really, this is about, and we want these conversations to inspire action. This isn't a report out to the community for our own benefit. Really, we think the community benefits from these updates because I think the community has responded in kind to say that the community benefits from these arrivals. So we're very thankful for that. I did want to touch next on a brief survey that was conducted by the Office of Refugee Resettlement, ORR. They really did work through. Oh, pardon me, I'm advancing slides a little too fast here. Sorry. This slide here is really looking by the metrics of the success of folks as they've arrived. So again, of 690 Afghan arrivals, about 314 were adults between the ages of 18 and 64, so employable adults. To date, 132 of those adults have gotten job placements through the International Institute that we've been able to record. The average starting wage for those who entered employment is near $16 an hour, which we're very pleased with. In all, 94% of those 132 individuals gained jobs or placed in full-time employment, with 70% of all arrivals are accessing full benefits through their employer. Um, One thing that we have struggled with, and this is something that we've seen across the country as we've conferred with other resettlement agencies, is the lack of engagement in employment by Afghan women. To date, of the 132 placements that we've made, only 17% of those are women. And that is represents challenges across the spectrum, right? These aren't just challenges in terms of equity and access, but challenges in terms of household income for families that are not necessarily in their accustomed to in their culture having women work outside the home, where faced with the economic realities of life in the United States, it is imperative for families, especially for large families, that we have multiple earners in those families bringing income in to support household expenses. And this will tie into a piece of data I'm going to share with you in our next slide. But our staff here are endeavoring to really engage Afghan women in the pursuit of employment, whether it's in the home or outside of the home, in order to bring those the economic empowerment, right? Frankly, that comes with that, the self-sufficiency that can be attained for the family with additional income, but also the dignity of work that brings for everybody. So that those are efforts that our staff are currently undertaking. And again, these numbers aren't extremely disproportionate with what we've seen with other agencies across the country. These are challenges that we're all working through. But I think it's worth noting that of the Afghan women who have been employed, more than half of them have been employed over the course of the last 2 months. And so that is an indicator to us that the economic realities are sort of coming to bear for the families that we're working with, and instigating sort of an acceptance of something that might be fighting against the cultural norm, and that is having Afghan women working outside the home. We're very encouraged to see this, but we know this is not This is not a trend that is likely to happen without stewardship, without a conversation with cases. And so we are engaging in that to really see how we might be able to bring more women into the world of work to support those families where that's able to occur. Of all the arrivals that we have right now, 63% of the cases have one working adult in them. And that is a snapshot, right? There might be others who have been working and are no longer working. But at this point, we are really just less than 2/3 of the cases at present have a working adult. This is, of course, is not taking out any cases where social security disability income is being earned in any of these cases. So this is truly a snapshot overall of all the cases that we have. Right now on our roster, we have 33 adults that are actively seeking employment. And again, this is really featured in order to give us the perspective of the interest that we're seeing. We are really intending to work with our community partners who are engaged in one-on-one work with the cases to have conversations around household expenses, to have conversations about managing those. We want to see more folks engaged with our workforce services here at the International Institute, because we know that is very much a need in order for families to feel self-sufficient. However, there is an acculturation that needs to occur in order for people to really understand kind of what is needed to manage those household expenses. And so that isn't instructive. It isn't something we just tell clients and it dawns on them and they can put sort of their cultural perspective to the side and say, okay, we're going to jump wholeheartedly into this. These are tough lessons that are learned over time and not in an instant. And so we really appreciate the support of all the community partners in continuing to have these conversations with clients about household expenses, about income coming into the family. The support that the Institute or any partner is able to provide is really short term and not designed for protracted use. So the ability for families to be able to move to self-sufficiency quickly is really going to be predicated on their ability to gain employment early. And so we seek everybody's assistance in encouraging clients to continue to pursue employment. And as I previewed earlier, the Office of Refugee Resettlement did conduct a resettlement survey where they were actually able to reach out to 3,000, a little more than 3,000 principal applicants. And so those are the people identified as the principal applicant within a case. Generally, that is going to be men, but they were very predominantly disproportionately men. And of the 1,600 who were actually able to complete the responses in full. 86% of those respondents responding about households were men, and 14% were women. The questions asked were really pertaining to challenges around employment, around these issues of household expenses and contact. So unsurprisingly, immigration legal status adjustment was ranked as the #1 most pressing need amongst all survey respondents. This issue of temporary status that they're enjoying now as parolees and transferring over to a more permanent status, whether that's as an SIV or as an asylum seeker, were really kind of the notions that were brought up most often. So again, the Afghan Adjustment Act can almost with a pen stroke ease these very pressing concerns for our clients. I would also make mention of the fact that at the time when they were uniformly receiving information around their next steps after arrival, when they were in the military bases, they're receiving information that existed at the time. And in fact, what they were receiving was that they needed to apply for asylum within 1 year of arrival. And while that had been the rule uniformly, there has been allowances made for those who have active parolee status, that those applications do not need to be submitted within 1 year, as long as they have active status that allows them to stay legally within the country. After that 1 year period, they can be submitting those applications for status adjustments beyond the 1 year marker. And so again, we could really use the community's help in continuing to deliver this message when in conversation with our clients. Of the survey respondents, 91% indicated that they were in permanent housing, of course, meaning that there were still 9% that were in temporary housing. Here in St. Louis, we do have 100% of our clients who in permanent housing, and again, we're very thankful for the support of folks on this call, folks not on this call, and helping us get there. We do see that nationwide, again, amongst principal applicants, 65% reported that they were employed, and that functionally tracks with the data that we've shared. We do see, for us, we do have about 63% of all cases where individuals where one individual is employed. So that's functionally tracking with the national average as displayed here. 38% reported living expenses were covered, and this is challenging because many of the respondents that they have had, they indicated had arrived in the 3-month period earlier this spring. And so that would mean at this point they're functionally 6 months removed from resettlement. 38% indicating their living expenses are covered is very much a challenge. It is additional support that agencies are receiving. They're allowing folks to make ends meet, but a little detail within the responses indicated that many folks are of course, are rightly not considering that temporary assistance to be permanent, and therefore don't feel as if they're having their living assistance or living expenses covered by the income that they are receiving. Increasing income, of course, is the way to get there. It's difficult to reduce expenses at this time, in a time of rising prices, though we see that leveling off. We know that our clients are feeling kind of the crunch there, as many of the folks who've been in housing for even a short period of time have already seen their rents rise. And so as these expenses are accruing, that need for additional income is really pressing our clients at this point. In terms of contact with their agency, we do see that 57% reported having contact with their agency within the last month, and 38% reported no contact with their agency in the prior month. And these are challenges. And many of the agencies across the country who are serving Afghan arrivals are maybe only providing those initial resettlement services, so maybe only providing services for 90 days. There is a contingent of others, like the International Institute, that do have extended services that can continue to provide support in one way or another for a period after that resettlement period ends. And that's what we see in terms of this national average is functionally aligning with what we're seeing here at the International Institute, and that is a challenge. We would really want to see clients coming back and having access to the services that are here and available. Frankly, we are undersubscribed when it comes to our employment assistance. Again, with only 33 individuals seeking employment at this time, we know that there's still 150 others at least who could be seeking employment through the institute who are not. That act of seeking employment, it really requires that clients are staying connected to service. And so with 57% reporting that they have not contacted the agency in the last month, that would indicate a lack of uptake when it comes to accessing these services that require regular contact, such as mental health services, such as employment services, which are very critical to this stage of adjustment where many folks are right now. So I did want to share with you, these national numbers to give you a sense of broadly what's happening across the country, and as well as being able to compare that with what's happening here locally. We really welcome all opportunities for partnership, and we really are seeking opportunities for partnership, particularly around issues of employment and within the particular issue of getting women to work. And this is an ongoing conversation we are having with our community partners, and I just want to make note of that here and welcome anybody who's not yet engaged in that conversation to join us. Please reach out if you would like to talk more about this challenge and about the efforts that we're undertaking to try to shrink that gap between men and women seeking employment from our Afghan parolee group. With that, I'll kind of pause. I know there was a lot of information there, but wanted to see if there's any thoughts or questions that have popped up in the course of our conversation to this point. Okay, well, hearing none, I'll go ahead and stop talking finally and kick it over to my colleague Carlos to tell us a little bit more about Festival of Nations. Carlos?
Thanks, Blake. Great to see everyone here this afternoon. Just want to remind and emphasize we have the exciting Festival of Nations coming up here, returning to Tower Grove Park August 27th and 28th, next couple of weekends. A lot of information has been updated on our Festival of Nations STL.org website. So when it comes to programming for performances throughout the course of the weekend, starting at 10 a.m. each Saturday and Sunday, where we have a lot of exciting live acts that have been announced now and have posted. So please keep an update on that information on our Festival of Nations website. We also have an amazing headliner who's going to be performing, Emmanuel Jal, South Sudanese child soldier, who's now an artist and advocate, coming in town, who will be headlining on Saturday, I believe at 6:30 p.m. A few highlights here: lots of great food and retail vendors from a number of cultures, ethnicities, and cuisine. 2 stages of live entertainment that'll be featured, from various cultures, very dynamic and engaging. And of course, a lot of people coming in from around the region, even probably from other parts of the US for this event. And, a great thing about it's also family-friendly activities for everyone, from arts and crafts. So it's a great event to bring out the family and your friends and, make a day or a weekend out of the Festival of Nations in Tower Grove Park. And, with this event, we can continue with the slides, that we want to, this is a way for the International Institute to really create an inclusive society and bridge culture and inspire action. So throughout the course of the weekend, there's going to be a lot of different activities to engage the St. Louis region on building this really multicultural society here in St. Louis, especially with a lot of new arrivals here in the coming last several months and over the course of the last decade. So we're really excited to showcase that. And, of course, it's an opportunity to develop our community and amplify the voices and the stories that, our new friends have to tell. So this is a great way to connect with others and hear those stories and voices and to be a part of this inclusive society that we're looking to achieve. And just creating St. Louis into an overall melting pot. So for those that want more information, John's also going to be talking later about volunteer opportunities that we still have available for the Festival of Nations and throughout the course of this. So we hope to see a lot of familiar faces. We're thankful for everyone who's supporting this, whether it's sponsoring, participating, or engaging in one way or another. And we hope to see all of you on August 27th and 28th. So thank you guys, for being here for that. We can go. So we want to highlight one recent community collaboration that we hosted, Operation Food Search Metro Market here at the Institute on Saturday, August 6th. It was a great success where we welcomed a lot of clients in the neighborhood to shop in the mobile Metro Market that was parked here at the Institute's lot. We also had a tremendous support from Schnucks that provided $2,500 in gift cards or coupons for our clients to shop. So we were able to serve 85 families, families that have been here for new arrivals and families that have been here for some time to build awareness of this amazing resource that we have in our community. And really have a nice access point for food, for staple foods such as vegetables, fruits, meats, and fish. So just want to give a quick thanks to Operation Food Search and the Metro Market team for such an incredible collaboration that was a couple weeks ago. And this isn't limited to the all the community partners that we work with, but we did want to give a thanks to a lot of the community partners that we are working with here, in particular through the Command Center at the International Institute, and a lot of the volunteers and networks that are supporting the ongoing work in a number of different capacities through the resettlement efforts and creating a welcoming environment for new arrivals, and just their continued support and their longstanding dedication. It's been a huge, amazing collaborative effort, and we just want to give a nice thanks to Oasis International, the Little Angels Foundation, Welcome Neighbor STL, Kindness Begins With Me, the Islamic Foundation of Greater St. Louis and Vital Mall, House of Goods, Just Serve, the Seventh Adventist Church, and Christian Friends of New Americans. It's been a huge effort that a lot of these partners have supported over the course of the last several months and even the last years. So just want to give it a great thank you to all of you. I see there's a question about the mobile market, and this is something that we're still working on with Operation Food Search. So we don't have a next date identified, but we're hoping to have another one here at the International Institute at another point. They also do have regularly scheduled metro markets at other locations, such as Affinia Healthcare, and I believe a couple other locations where our clients access on a frequent basis. So that was another point of building awareness for this resource that they have, and that they can access the mobile market or the metro market at other times and days throughout fourth season, which closes sometime in December for the winter. And we also will be showcasing the Afghan Community Center here that I'm gonna send this off to my colleague Moji Siddiqui, who oversees our Afghan Community Support Program.
Hi guys, I'm so excited to tell you guys about last night. So last night, St. Louis Mosaic Project hosted our presentation in partnership with HOK Architectural Firm here at the World Trade Center office. We had full house, 40 plus folks, including tons of Afghan community members, both new and older St. Louisans. So for the past few months, we've been in partnership with HOK, thanks to St. Louis Mosaic Project making the connection, for them to help us create a digital concept of what the new up and coming Afghan Community Center is going to look like. And we've got some great feedback, tons of very positive energy in the room. A major shout out to Betsy Cohen for creating the connection, and shout out to the HOK interns who did all this work pro bono. 3 interns specifically, and their internship program actually ended last week, but they still extended it, and they were at the presentation last night, and they gave a very insightful presentation where they included historical, architectural, design inspiration from Afghanistan and cities in Afghanistan. It was a really good time, and we have a space for the Afghan Community Center. It's located at the intersection of Itasca and South Grand. Overall, I feel really, really excited. And I believe that we created momentum within the community because there was tons of partners present. Shout out to CFNA, Christian Friends of New Americans. Shout out to Welcome Neighbor STL, and so many other folks that were there present, and they brought other friends and family members. And shout out to Carlos and Pedro for everything that they did to make last night successful. Just really happy and excited. There will definitely be more updates on that, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to John so he could touch on some volunteer information for the Festival of Nations and other things.
Hi, everyone. My name is John Worth, and I'm the Volunteer Program Manager here at the International Institute. For those who I have not met yet, it's definitely a pleasure. So yeah, I'm going to dive into kind of starting with Festival of Nations, touch on a few things that Carlos has discussed, but kind of go over the actual ask and what we're kind of looking for at the moment. So as mentioned, Festival of Nations is going to be August 27th and 28th. That is a Saturday and Sunday at Tower Grove Park. So we're extremely excited to have a return to Tower Grove Park, have the community join us, celebrate, and just make it a great event. Kind of some of the needs right now for Festival of Nations is we are still looking for volunteers to help create and make this a successful event. Specifically, some of those needs really are can be seen within our drink booths. So for this, volunteers just be stationed at drink booths and help with beverage sales. That includes water, soda, and alcohol. They might also take orders and handle payment if they're comfortable with that, and help distribute drinks to customers. I will say for this drink booth position, we're looking for people that are 25 years of age as of August 27th to help join with that. So if you or anyone else is interested, we could definitely use some help in that position. We're specifically needing help again on that Friday and that Saturday and Sunday, but we are expecting the majority of guests to come on Saturdays. So we're hoping to fill those Saturday roles first and then move to Sunday. But if you are available to help assist on either of those days, we would definitely appreciate any help that we can get. So please pass it out to your networks. And if you're able to attend as a volunteer, we'd still love to have you as a guest. So please bring your friends, families, coworkers, things of that nature. If you do have any questions about festival and volunteering, please reach out to me at worthj@istl.org or to Chrissy Durant to be able to help you out with any of those questions you may have. Also, one opportunity that we are trying to expand is our volunteer leadership program here at the International Institute. So this is definitely an evolving program. It can kind of be seen already with our RMP and our donation volunteers. We currently have a set of volunteers who help out on a consistent basis with certain needs of the Institute. So right now we are trying to fill a role for volunteer grocery shoppers who can help out in that leadership program. That's within our client services. And those grocery shoppers, they would basically help with grocery shopping either a day before new arrivals or the day of to help assist with grocery shopping, kind of doing a shopping 101, introducing them to the do's and the don'ts of grocery shopping, answering questions they may have. And so for that, we are looking for more consistent volunteers, but we also take one-off volunteers as well. But again, just trying to build a program of volunteer leaders who are able to help assist with the current needs that we have. Also, another volunteer leadership opportunity that we would have is with public transportation volunteers. So with the influx of arrivals that we plan on having the rest of the year, a lot of them are going to be new to the US, new to public transportation, and not understanding how that works. So we are trying to build a group of interested volunteers and helping assist with new arrivals and discovering how public transportation works. So if you are interested in that, please reach out to me as well. I also want to mention, again, with these influx of new arrivals, we are looking for some more donations, specifically things such as box fans, irons, laundry detergent. And if you are curious and wanting to know what other items we do need, we have a Target and Amazon wish list on our website. So please view that. If you are able to donate, we would definitely appreciate that, just so we are ready for our new arrivals and our families and what everything we need when they first arrive. And so here, again, if you are interested in some other volunteer opportunities that I haven't mentioned, you just go to our website, iistl.org/volunteer. When you are on that website, just know that volunteer opportunities are updated weekly. So you might check one week and there's nothing on there, but the next week we could have 2 or 3 different opportunities. So please check back often. And if you do have specific questions about any programming, any volunteer opportunities, please reach out to me. My email is below. And again, if you are interested in volunteering as a group for Festival Nations, you can also reach out to Chrissy Durant as well. And also, we are also always taking donations. So please feel free to donate either monetarily or through the items that I mentioned below through our Target or Amazon wish list. We're more than glad to take those. I would appreciate any support that we can get. And lastly, we definitely encourage our partners to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, just because we put out all our updates on these social media platforms. So to stay up to date on what we are currently doing, our current needs, any volunteer opportunities, just please follow us on these social media platforms for more updated information. And now we're just going to present a video on volunteering, thanking the community partners for all the hard work you guys have done. We definitely can't do the work that we do without you all. So we'll get that started.
At the International Institute of St. Louis, we have so much to be grateful for.
We are deeply grateful for the incredible outpouring support we have received from the people of St. Louis. For over 1,000 volunteers who have raised their hands to help our Afghan neighbors in their time of need.
For the generosity of thousands of donors and our corporate partners that have made our work possible.
For everyone who has wished us well, shared their stories, and spread the word about our work. For the coalition of community of partners who work day and night to help immigrant families begin their new lives in America.
For our veteran allies who have worked tirelessly in organizing our Afghan neighbors to find a safe place to call home.
For our incredible International Institute of St. Louis team, whose long hours and tireless efforts are giving home to the many in need.
And for our refugee and immigrant neighbors who are at the center of everything we do. You give meaning to our work every day. Dankeschön. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Namaste.
Merci.
Eniche.
Thank you. Danke. Gracias. Namaste.
Well, thank you for that video said it all. There's nothing else I could really say. I really appreciate everybody's effort and support and collaboration throughout this. This is efforts that continue. We've been doing this work for more than 100 years, and we hope to engage with it as long as it's needed. And so we really appreciate everybody here and their continued support. Just a couple of reminders here. One, we are not going to be having this meeting again in 2 weeks. We'll be rescheduling that one. We'll get back on schedule after Labor Day holiday in September. I also did want to mention we will actually be receiving guests from the Office of Refugee Resettlement and from USCRI, our national partner, on the 29th of August, the day after Festival of Nations. They'll be joining us here in St. Louis to learn more about what we do, and we'll be arranging times for some of our partners to come talk about how we partner together and what the landscape here in St. Louis looks like for resettling refugees. This is really an opportunity for us to show off as a region and how our collaborations are unique and uniquely supporting those who we serve together. So once again, thank you all for your continued support. I will see you all at Festival of Nations. I will be a much sweatier version of myself, and I'll be wearing a t-shirt, but it will still be me. So if you do see me, please come up and say hi. Thank you all again, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Take care.